What's up, guys? Trevor here with eCommerce Paradise. Today, I'll talk to you about how to get started as a digital nomad. I'm in Los Angeles today, driving out to Thousand Oaks. That's the goal. Super excited. Just gonna basically go out there to eat some lunch, and then probably sit at a Starbucks and work for another few hours on some client projects. Right now, basically really focusing on their email marketing, their Klaviyo accounts, trying to get their funnels really nicely done, laid out, get people to subscribe, get people to confirm their subscription, and then get people to, actually respond to emails and stuff like that. You'll find when you're building an online business that you got to get into like the really nitty gritty stuff, like the little tiny details. That stuff matters a lot. When you're going into little tiny things, you'll start to see like the little details make all the difference. Like when I'm going into, considering moving to a new place, and I'm looking at all the little details, I'm thinking about, okay, is this place that I'm looking at, like for instance, I'm looking into Tulum right now for places to live in Mexico because it's way cheaper out there and like really good lifestyle. Instead of spending $3,000 a month on a furnished apartment in LA, I can spend less than $1,000 a month on a furnished apartment in Tulum, Mexico. Live a pretty good life out there, get tons of client work done on US time, and just makes a lot more sense. So anyways, you're looking at an Airbnb or whatever for a monthly rental. It's usually what works the best until you get out there, and then maybe you can find like an actual like direct apartment that'll cost even less. But anyways, so you got to look at like a bunch of different variables, and the main thing I'm looking at is my everyday life. When I get down there in Mexico, I don't plan on renting a car, so it's going to be a motorbike. And then also in Mexico, it's down in the tropics, so you got to consider they have a rainy season. In LA, there's not much of a rainy season. Maybe it's like middle of winter sometime. It rains a bit, but it's kind of random out here. Pretty dry, pretty nice most of the year. If I had tons of money, I'd probably just live in LA. But I'm working hard to build up my money right now, so it kind of makes more sense to live meagerly for a while until I get to that point where I have a bunch of money. Mexico makes more sense right now. Plus, I want to travel too. And, spending all of your money on base living expenses in the US, it makes it hard to travel, obviously. So you got to, think like maybe it makes more sense to actually do something else, right? So, when I'm looking at details on where to live, I'm thinking to myself, okay, number one, I want to be able to easily walk anywhere that I need to go to get something that I need. That means like a 7-Eleven or a grocery store. A lot of times in these countries like Thailand, Bali, Mexico, Colombia, for example, they'll have these furnished apartments that are great, and they are situated in places where there are there's like a 7-Eleven downstairs, which is really cool, because if you're just chilling in your apartment and then you decide, oh, I'm hungry, like what are your options? You got to go to the fridge, right? Cook up something, or you're gonna order something through like an app, a delivery app, but that's kind of expensive usually. So it's really nice to have some sort of convenience store like literally downstairs where you live, and that's probably the best thing you can do, is just have that like convenient lifestyle. So because like for instance, if you go out to a new country, right, and you're traveling and stuff like that, you book a hotel. A lot of times these hotels are like way out in the middle of nowhere. There's no amenities, there's no like convenience stores and stuff. So you end up spending a bunch of money just to buy food and snacks and whatever else at that actual hotel that you're staying at, And it can get kind of expensive. It's you got to optimize it. So yeah, my whole thing is like, look what's around the apartment. You're gonna find probably sometimes like these amazing apartments or like these places to live that are a little bit further out. So, if you're going in the rainy season and you're further out and you have a motorbike, you're going to get wet. You can get a rain jacket and do your best, but middle of the night, if you're hungry or like whatever it is, when you wake up in the morning, what are you going to do? You know, you got to prepare. So my thing is like find the perfect balance, find the perfect thing that's like in between. So it's all about like a really good situation, a nice place. It has great amenities. So I'm looking for like a gym, you know, hopefully some sort of a sauna or something like that would be cool too. Obviously a swimming pool, like a swimming pool that's like long enough to swim laps in. And then you got to get somewhere close. Jeez, dude. Close enough to where you're like within walking distance of a convenience store. You know, anywhere in like a city center area, but also like not in the ghetto area. And it's hard to determine before you go somewhere, like what the different areas are like, you know? So you got to do some research. I look at YouTube videos and read blog posts and kind of just look on Google Maps and get some sort of an idea. I like to see like new construction, like newly constructed buildings, modern construction, that kind of stuff. You know, usually that means that it's not like a super ghetto area. Ghetto areas are usually like older construction and stuff like that. You know, when I was looking around LA, it was interesting because there's really not a whole lot of new construction out here that's affordable. All the affordable places are at old construction places. I mean, older buildings. And so when you're looking at a place, you know, you're going to be paying more for newer stuff usually, especially out here in LA. But man, down in Mexico, it's like $800 a month or something for a studio apartment at like one of these brand new construction places. I'm like, some of it has to do with the timeliness of this, you know, period as well. Because when Tulum was first booming, which was like, I think during the pandemic, a lot of people from the US were going down there to stay long term as like a digital nomad and stuff like that, work online, work remote, made more sense. After the pandemic ended, a lot of those companies ended the remote working contracts, or at least limited them greatly, and people had to move back. So I think that's kind of what happened. And now there's this sort of like lack of, you know, people living down there. So obviously the demand is lower, so supply is higher, so prices go down. So I think that's sort of just kind of me getting lucky in a sense. I'm assuming prices were probably a little bit higher back then generally, but I don't really know. I don't have like a time clock. I can go back on Airbnb and see the prices. But there's tons of availability, tons of apartments available, that $800, $700 range in the city center area in Tulum. I read a bunch of reviews where it's like, okay, the roads are kind of rough. It's hard to get out to the beach. There's a ton of expensive beach clubs there. I mean, it's kind of the same thing as Bali. Like, when you're in Bali, it's the same shit. You got the city center, everything's cheaper, you know, live next to a convenience store, okay. You can get a $300, $400, $500 a month, you know, probably more like $500 a month furnished studio apartment at like a nice apartment with a co-working space and everything. And that's another thing I'm looking for, is an apartment with a co-working space in it, like an air-conditioned office space with office chairs and stuff like that. Jesus, I think this light just totally skipped us. Anyways, wow, pretty messed up. So I'm thinking, I found some good, decent spots. So I'm probably going to book something soon, but that's just kind of things you got to look at. It really depends on you and like what you need and what your, you know, what your needs are and stuff like that. Do you have a family? Do you have a, Jesus, dude, this light just does not want to change. What the fuck? But you know, if you're traveling solo, it's a whole different story, right? You don't need like so much amenities if you can live a little bit cheaper. But if you're traveling with a partner, and especially if you have children, it's a, you know, whole different story. You know, solo, man, you can probably just get away with hostels. Depends on like how like social you are and stuff like that. But dude, I swear to God, this light is not changing. It should be green right now. But if you're solo, you can, you know, it really depends. Really just depends on like what you need in life and stuff like that. But if you have a partner like me, so I have to like plan ahead. I have a wife, you know, I don't want to have like a shitty living situation. So we're trying to figure out exactly how to make that work. And yeah, you got to look at the details, man. It's super important, you know? But yeah, it's possible. So the coolest thing about being a digital nomad, I guess, is that obviously you can live in a cheaper place. It's location arbitrage. It's kind of the bottom line. You need to have an online income of some sort, a remote working job or business that's remote or something. You know, and then beyond that, you obviously need to have the capability to keep that going. The whole point is that you can do it consistently. So even if you like figure out something that works 1 month, that doesn't mean it's always going to be consistent. So you got to be able to come up with consistent streams of revenue. What I like to suggest is that, you come up with at least 2 to 3. You have a job and then maybe like a side hustle or something like that. Or maybe you have like a main business and you have a side hustle. But like I always like to have 2 to 3 streams. Like right now my agency is my main stream of income, but I'm doing some other stuff on the side that I'm planning on getting going. I think this light's fucked up, dude. Jesus Christ, I'm so frustrated. This is fucked up. Okay. Something's wrong with this light. I literally just sat at this light for like fucking 15 minutes, watched it turn green on all the other ones like 3 different times, and never turned back to me. So I was like, whatever, dude. It's gonna turn around. Makes sense. So it makes more sense, if you can get streams of income that are online based, to live abroad, just bottom line. But you have to consider, if your business requires you to communicate with energy during a certain time, okay, this is a big mistake I made. You can't put yourself in a place where you're gonna not be able to have energy to communicate at that certain time. Like for me, my business is based in America because that's where I'm from, so that's where I was able to build it really well. I speak English, And I went to Bali, I met this wonderful woman, fell in love, we got married during the pandemic. I had a dropshipping business that I was like outsourcing and streamlining at the time, and everything was going great. And then ended the pandemic, the niche just completely collapsed. And unfortunately, I just kind of fell victim to outside circumstances, and I had overinvested in my business, and ended up having to sell it to avoid bankruptcy. But I sold it, that was great. And then I kind of made the same mistake again. I tried to make the same business work for like 2 or almost 3 years. And it just never really took off. It unfortunately just never quite got back to that place that I needed to get back to give me a full-time income. And so I ended up spending all that money that I made selling the business and going into debt trying to make it work. It just never worked. And then when Trump got into office, he created these tariffs, and the tariffs ended up causing a lot of like disruptions in the supply chains. And I ended up just basically having to fire sale my stores, unfortunately, just so I could, pay off a little bit of debt here or there. And now I have a bunch of debt, but it's fine. Like that's just how it goes in life with business. Some businesses work out, sometimes, they fail and you just kind of have to deal with it. Luckily, all my debt is, it's credit cards, business cards mostly, and, some loans, some like cash advance loans, business cash advance loans. They give you money to buy inventory and then you pay them some interest, and then, anyway, so you do what you got to do to keep your shit going, right? But I think it's really important just to know that this is just a part of doing business. When you're a business person, there's going to be ups and downs. Sometimes your business is going to be doing awesome and you're going to make a ton of money. You should not take that lightly. You should not spend all those profits on growth. You hear people out there saying, reinvest, reinvest, reinvest. Well, it's like, it's not true, man. It's not smart to do that. You have to put some money away. You got to pay your taxes. You got to, keep some savings for a rainy day. You got to pay personal expenses. And also, it's kind of easy when somebody is first starting to make a lot of money to go and blow that money and live a lavish lifestyle. In America, you can get these credit cards that give you points, and if you learn how to hack the system, you can start living like this really luxurious traveling like lifestyle where you can just basically live out of like really nice hotels and take business class flights all over the place. And all it takes is a bunch of business spend. So either, your cost of goods sold or your ads are doing really good and converting, and if your business is doing well and you're cash flowing really well, you can get a ton of points. So that's what I was doing for the past like almost 10 years, and it was amazing. But the problem with that is that it makes you kind of get lazy. So I got kind of lazy, and things kind of started not working so well and falling apart. And the other thing too is beyond I think what leads to the laziness is drinking alcohol. I started drinking alcohol all the time just because it didn't matter and it feels good and it's fun. And that was one of the things where it was like, I eventually came to a head. I knew it needed to stop. My finances did not agree with my lifestyle anymore, so had to move on. But that's just how it goes in life. The cool thing about online business is that it's a business. It's something that you own. You're not, tied to somebody else and what they want to do and what they like tell you to do. So you make your own decisions, and it's your own consequences too. When you go into debt, you got to deal with it yourself. So just get used to the fact that you're going to be responsible for your own success or your own, demise, and take responsibility. Own it. If you do fall apart, just kind of like take responsibility, and there's always a way out. It's not that hard. You just have to get up in the morning, stop drinking alcohol. If you're smoking a lot, stop smoking so much. Quit altogether if you can. Get some caffeine in you, whatever it takes to get your day going, and focus on helping others. I think that's the main thing, like in business, is like if you are helping others, they will be willing to pay you money, and you have to want to help others. I think I kind of lost that for a while there. Maybe around 2021, like I kind of lost my will to help others so much, and that's pretty much was the foundation to my demise for the past 3 or 4 years. Was that, I think, if I had never lost that and wanted to continue to help others so much, I probably would have continued, and it probably would have been fine, and I would have worked out. I think probably more than anything, that's what caused the demise. Everything else is sort of a symptom. The drinking, the partying, the smoking, everything else is a symptom of the true underlying cause, which is like a willingness to help others. I wasn't making YouTube videos much back then. I just didn't really care, So here I am, and I decided to turn my life around just because, I can. And why not, live a better life and be happier? That kind of lifestyle can only last so long, until everything falls apart and you alienate everybody and nobody wants to help you anymore, and then you lose all your money and boom, you have to get back and start helping people again. It's just how it goes. So, and actually deep down, I really do love helping people. I just need to do it in a way that makes sense for me financially. So I don't want to get a job, and really, honestly, I don't think I could. I'm a little bit overqualified. I'm really not willing to work some sort of bullshit job where I don't have any experience and I'm going to get paid very little. It doesn't make any sense. So starting and building the agency business makes a lot more sense to me, because I can provide services at a high level for people and provide them great results and get paid really well for it, and have a big team helping me, and continue to travel the world and cash flow, pay off my debt, even if it's slowly, I'll be paying it off, and eventually get back to this point where I have no debt and I'm building up a savings and I'm able to buy assets that produce cash flow again, like real estate. And that's my goal long term. So yeah, it's a good goal to have, just got to wake up every day thinking, okay, what's next? What should I do today? And then once you kind of decide the overall projects of what you're focusing on, you got to get into the nitty gritty details of them. Like right now, like I was talking about, I'm helping clients with their Klaviyo accounts with email marketing. It's just kind of one of the basic foundations to success with e-commerce. So it's something that shouldn't be ignored. I have a couple of clients that have been doing stores for a long time now, that make a bit of money. But their Klaviyo accounts were just kind of neglected ever since they started them up. So my whole thing now is just go through them. Don't necessarily completely change them, but just optimize what's already there. Make sure it's a solid foundation. Make sure the connections are connected properly, and the lead generation, app works properly, is connected to Klaviyo, and then make sure that the email marketing funnel, like the customer, when they receive the confirmation email, make sure that part is optimized. I came up with a whole new thing where we do like a giveaway every month, so it gets them more excited to confirm their email because they know they're going to get something, or they have the possibility to get something for free that's valuable to them. And then that gives us the ability to send them emails, more often. And what I'm going to be doing for the client stores is setting up an automated blog post app and create blog posts a few times a week. I think every day might be a bit too much, so we're going to do maybe like 3 times a week is probably a good cadence. And then it'll automatically send broadcast emails to the list every time a new blog post is pushed out. and then that person gets valuable information. The blog post links to products and collections and whatnot, so they can easily flow through the site. And then it kind of keeps the site top of mind for the customer, and then gives them, gives them information about the niche that they're excited about and whatever. So it kind of keeps the communication open there, which is really cool. And I'm super excited because I did all this when I was doing my big sites back during the pandemic, but then I kind of didn't really follow through that well when I was building my sites the last couple of years, and that's kind of part of the reason why they failed, I think, or they didn't do so well. They didn't fail. They were doing $100,000 a month in revenue. It's just, there were cash flow issues, and I wasn't really working on it that much. And at the end of the day, everything just kind of fell apart. We were taking back orders, and then when Trump tariffs happened, all these back orders got canceled. When that hits you really hard, your business can just completely fall apart. So it is what it is. Shopify payments shut me down on those 2 stores where that happened, and I wasn't able to continue running them. The guy who bought it, he just bought it for the domain and the Google Merchant Center. That was all he was buying it for. So that was the assets that were worth to him, and the supplier accounts as well. But yeah, so excited about life, and the new adventures are going to be really fun. Just don't forget to look at the little details of everything, when you're planning things out. I hope this video was helpful in some way or another. Make sure you subscribe. Hit me up. Let me know in the comments what you want to see for the next one. I'll just be trying to do at least one video every day talking about kind of what I'm doing in life. I think that's just sort of my thing right now. Maybe later on I'll figure out other stuff. I know I probably need to make more like topical style videos too. At least I figured out this thing where I can film during the day using my like little car phone holder thing and use the microphone for good audio, for me, it's nothing crazy. I'm just trying to have a good time and live my life. I know that someday I'm going to die, and it sucks, but we only have a limited amount of time. And that's okay. I mean, this life is a struggle, it's ups and downs and shit. It's a roller coaster ride. Eventually you're going to want to die. It must suck being a vampire, live forever. All your friends and family die and pass on. You got to keep making new friends, throughout your life. If you guys have ever watched any of those vampire movies, the one with Tom Cruise is really good. I should just talk more about random shit on this channel, actually. It's a lot of fun. But yeah. And by the way, one of the greatest resources for figuring out like where you want to live as a digital nomad is Nomad List. It's a website, it's like a membership site where it's free to join. You can just basically get most of the information you need. I think you still need to dive through a lot of like YouTube videos and blog posts and stuff. You're gonna find like a lot of people on YouTube are complainers. So a lot of people are like complaining about the bad things about a certain place. I found that with Tulum. Oh, Tulum is terrible. I'd never go back, blah, blah, blah. That's the kind of stuff that gets a lot of views. So YouTube always pushes those. It's most of the time, it's people that just aren't used to third world countries and I should say developing countries. I don't really know what third world means, actually. It's just sort of something that everybody says when they're talking about developing country. But, developing countries, that aren't as developed as the US, infrastructure-wise, they're going to have, everything's more messy. There's, construction going on. There's trash on the ground. There's, holes in the sidewalk. There's no sidewalks. There's a lot of traffic, and crazy drivers and stuff. It's just kind of how it is. That's how Bali is. So I've been living out in Bali full-time the last 5-6 years. So I'm very used to it. I don't think anything else can really, match the craziness you deal with out there. The good thing about Indonesia and Southeast Asia in general is there's not as much sketchy crime going on. I can't speak for China because I know the triads are the biggest organized crime syndicate in the world, but and probably Japan too. But I'm talking more about Southeast Asia, like Thailand and Indonesia. Generally speaking, it's very, very safe out there because they have strict drug laws. And Central South America, it's a bit more dangerous because of the cartels, right? And the drug violence. And that's pretty much what it's all about. So you just gotta be careful and watch your back, don't go out too late, blah, blah, blah. But, again, it's location arbitrage. It's living in the same time zone in a place that's a little bit less developed in exchange for maybe a third to a fifth of the, cost of living. And I think really the key is that you still got to live frugally. You know, you can't go out and like drink. Like if you can cut alcohol out of your life completely and junk food, then you're going to be amazingly healthy and happy, and you know, financially well off. You know, obviously it's hard to avoid junk food sometimes, just because maybe sometimes you want comfort food, or sometimes it's hard to find food. But generally speaking, just, you know, if you have the choice, the option, choose something healthier, right? Smoking is another one of those things that's going to drag you down and make you feel like shit. I should know, I've been doing it for the past couple of years. You know, I've been through periods of my life where I smoked, and I've been through periods of my life where I didn't, and I always felt a lot better and happier when I didn't smoke. Recently I quit and I started vaping instead. Like I literally just took my pack of cigarettes and threw it in the trash, and it felt really good. It's like a liberating moment. There was this weird moment where I was smoking outside of 7-Eleven, and these little biting flies started bothering me. And I'm kind of a religious person, low key, so like I always feel like if I get these signs that I should, you know, listen to them. And I felt like that was a sign from God telling me like, stop smoking these cigarettes, because that never happens to me. It was super random. What are these flies just fucking with me for, you know? And I already kind of had this feeling like I wanted to quit, but it was just one of those like weird like, hey, listen to me or something bad is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like it was more just like, this is the time. Like you need, like this, it's time. Make the decision now. You know, it's time. Like I've had a lot of these little like whispers in my ear of like, hey, it's time. And I like to listen to those, because generally those lead me to a good place. You know, so anyways, that happened. I had a little bit weird like withdrawal symptom feeling yesterday, where I was in kind of a mood, but it wasn't that bad. And you know, I made it through. I feel great today. So smoking less. I'm off the Red Bulls now. I'm on these Celsius instead of Red Bulls, which is cool, because I think this is let me check. I think it's got like it's like a sugar-free drink, right? 0 sugar, yeah. So it's like one of those sucralose drinks. So I'm not consuming so much sugar, like, because the mass amounts of sugar is not good for you, right? So you gotta not consume so much sugar. It's better. Whew. So yeah, it's gonna try really to focus on sparkling water, soda water. It's like the best thing. It's no sugar. It's got carbonation. You know. Fuck, there's this giant truck here. Oh, that's cool. And you're not going to be consuming so much sugar, you know, and alcohol. And I think you're, you know, anyways, it's just better. It's just better. Like you'll feel so good. And you know what else I noticed with when after I stopped drinking and became sober, it's been almost a month now, is that I feel so much more relaxed when I'm bored. Like I feel like it's like peaceful being bored, instead of it being like, oh, I'm bored, I have to go do something. It's like, instead of anxiety, I feel like peace. So, so yeah, I highly recommend sobriety. If you're, you know, even if you drink a little bit, it fucks your head up. Traveling is probably the most difficult place to be sober, because you can get like free wine if you go to the lounges, or on the airplane sometimes they'll give you free wine. But you know, hey, sparkling water or just regular water, that's what your body needs. Your body doesn't need sugar as much as you might think it does. I think we become addicted to sugar because we consume it, and your body then needs it to it's like a drug, you know. Sugar is extremely addictive, and it's not good for you. So I think it's better, like with any drug, you have to ease off of it. You can't just stop it like cold turkey. You're gonna have withdrawal symptoms. So when you're used to consuming sugar, you can't just stop it immediately. Like you have to ease off of it, or else you're gonna feel like shit and like have like a bad mood and stuff for a while. So just keep that in mind too. Like you don't want to put yourself through that. Withdrawal symptoms suck, and they're so pointless too. You can easily avoid them just by what they call tapering off stuff. So yeah, just taper, guys. It's easier to quit when you're tapering. And live a better life, you know? We're in this together, okay? Don't feel like you have to compete, you know? I like to tell everybody it's collaboration over competition. Competition is good for you because it gets you to work harder and push yourself harder. when maybe normally you wouldn't. But I think it's also good that you understand that it's not so much about you versus someone else, whereas it's more about you and somebody else in life. That's how to really, live a good life. And I don't know why, but I'm driving to a golf course right now. Of all places. All right, well, I better chill and actually focus on what my goal was, which is to go eat some lunch. But golfing does sound really fun right now. I wonder if they have a driving range here. Maybe this is God telling me I need to start golfing again. Fuck it. If you just follow where the wind kind of blows you, you kind of go in certain directions sometimes. It's good for you, right? All right, I'm rambling. See you guys in the next video. Take care.